Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis dated 14th June 2025. And this is Shyam Kaggod here, taking up the analysis for today's session. Now, before I start the discussion, please do let me know in the chat section that I'm audible and visible for all of you. Please do let me know, am I audible and visible for all of you? Done. Okay, so let's start the discussion. In today's session, I have taken up total of 8 articles. Most of the articles are on the aviation disaster that has taken place day for yesterday. Now, apart from that, I've taken totally 8 articles. All these articles are covering the important areas of prelims as well as the mains, the papers, be it polity, be it ecology and environment, be it international relations, etc. This has been done to ensure that the discussion will be comprehensive and more importantly, addressing all of your concerns regarding the prelims as well as mains examination. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Before I start, anybody wants to download the PPT that I'm using today, it will be uploaded in my Telegram channel. This is the QR code of the Telegram channel. You can join and download the PDF of this PPT in the from the channel. Now, if you're someone who is preparing for the Civil Services Examination 26 or 27, these are the 5 things that you need to follow to ace the examination. You need to have a comprehensive coverage of the static syllabus, updation of the current affairs, prelims test series, mains test series, and to top it all, very good reading material. You can avail all of it once you join our courses, which is available right now at a price of 17,999. And if you use the code IAS English, you will also get an extension of up to 12 months free of cost. Those who are interested, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Now, let me start the discussion. The first article, titled "The Rot Starts at the Top of Aviation Ladder." Now, although this is right there in the discussion for the last couple of days, what is given in the article, a lot of the points are critical of the government policies. A lot of these particular points are very technical in nature that you need to or you simply do not have to understand for the UPSC examination. Now, what are the important points? I'll tell you, and then we will basically expand the discussion so that if a question is asked in the mains examination, you'll be able to write an answer. Now, what do I mean by question? In this context, what kind of question can be asked? Please have a look at the question here. And those who are preparing for the upcoming mains examination, these are the kind of questions you can expect. The question reads, the rapid expansion of civil aviation market brings opportunities and safety challenges which needs to be addressed together. But that is essentially in the context of India. Please understand, India is one of the largest civil aviation markets as of now. And the civil aviation market in India is fast expanding. In the last 1 decade, the number of passengers who are choosing to travel using this method of transportation, the number of companies which have entered into the segment, the demand for the services, the number of planes which are being purchased by some of the companies, etc., is fast increasing. There is a rapid expansion of this particular industry. This is point number one. But at the same point of time, there are certain hazards or there are certain accidents happening every now and then. Every now and then, we are coming across these kind of accidents which will throw certain light on the challenges faced by the industry. And you need to be worried about those challenges as well. Now, what are the points given in the article? Let me tell you what are the points given in the article, then I'll expand the discussion. The writer simply says, despite experiencing multiple accidents, multiple, right, let's say accidents over decades, even today there are certain reforms that are needed to be implemented. And it seems that be it the regulator, that is a DGCI, or the Ministry of the Civil Aviation, etc., they have not been implementing or basically finding out the problems in the civil aviation market and addressing these particular issues to reduce, minimize, and eliminate the risk that is associated with the industry. That is point number one. Point number two, the writer simply says there are certain guidelines which are followed in the international market. There are certain guidelines which are followed, and these guidelines are announced, are proposed by whom? ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. Now, according to the guidelines which have been announced by this authority, whenever there is an accident of this nature, which has happened in the past also, which has happened recently in India, and again, just to make you understand in a much better way, it's not that India is the only country where such accidents do happen. No, there have been multiple accidents which have been reported. These kind of tragedies have been reported in other countries as well. So the argument is, according to the regulations or the guidelines announced by the ICAO, whenever such incidents do take place, the details associated with that accident, such as the names of the pilots, generally are not mentioned. The names and the experience of the pilots should not be mentioned. Reason being, whenever the minister, or for that matter, let's say the spokesman or the regulatory authority will start talking about, let's say, the pilots who were flying that plane, there is generally an, right, let's say, perception that is created. Was it the fault of the pilots? Was it a man-made mistake that actually led to loss of so many lives, loss of the property, etc.? And most of the times the writer simply says whether the investigation is done properly, improperly, etc., the fault is generally put at the shoulders or on the shoulders of the pilots. The pilots are blamed for these kind of events. Right? So the argument of the writer is there is a need to reform. There is a need to make certain systemic changes which will ensure that the safety in the overall industry will be improved. This is, in a nutshell, what has been provided in this article. Beyond this, please do not worry about, right, the technical arguments which have been put forward by the writer, talking about the flaps, talking about, right, the technical guidelines, etc. Not relevant for the civil services examination. At the end of the day, what you need to carry from this article? Essentially, we need to focus on improving the safety. Correct? We need to work on improving the safety. That is, certain guidelines are there. We need to implement these particular guidelines. So, if I want to discuss beyond this, what are the other areas that you need to write if at all a question is asked on, let's say, civil aviation market, the challenges faced in the civil aviation market? So, one is the guidelines regarding the safety have to be implemented. There have to be drills, safety drills, mock drills, etc. have to be conducted on periodical basis to check our preparedness, to check, right, let's say the quality, or let's say whether these particular let's say aeroplanes, are they meeting the quality norms, safeguard norms or not, right? So periodical drills have to be conducted. For example, now the Director General for Civil Aviation has made an announcement that all the safety protocols will be conducted, right, checking the quality of these Boeing aeroplanes now. So the argument is we should conduct these particular safety drills, right, on periodical basis in order to check and ensure that we are ready whenever such kind of disasters will hit us. The third challenge that civil aviation market faces is lot of these particular aeroplanes used by the companies are old ones, aging. Instead of old, you can use the term aging infrastructure or aging planes. Now, please understand, in the global parlance or in the global market, specifically targeting the civil aviation, what is an aging aeroplane? How do you define an aging aeroplane? Is it 5-year old, 6-year old, or 10-year old? Is it called as an aging? Please understand, generally the experts argue that the planes in the range of 15 to 20 years, that is the tenure, or generally the aged aeroplanes are generally referred to those planes which are being used for so many years. Now, in case of India, no doubt the civil aviation industry is expanding, but some of these particular companies, some of the operators, they have been putting orders for the new planes, but in the existing fleet they are using, existing aeroplanes, a lot of them are old aeroplanes, aged aeroplanes. And whenever you use the aged aeroplanes, automatically there is always a risk. Automatically, there is always a concern regarding the safety of the passengers. That's a reason multiple times you must have seen in the videos, YouTube, etc. The right, let's say the infrastructure within the aeroplane, such as the seats, such as oxygen mask, etc., etc. These are not working correctly, right? The exit, or let's say the certain windows are not operating correctly, right? Etc., etc. Those, all of them pose a severe risk or health hazards in case of the let's say the civil aviation market. Fourth concern that you should be writing is about the mental health of the pilots. The health of the pilots, not just the physical but also the mental health of the pilots, because very often these particular pilots, although there are regulations, although DGCA has or put in certain conditions regarding how much rest should be provided, what is the number of flying hours, etc., a lot of times, right, the issue that arises is because the pilots are exhausted. The pilots have been traveling from point A to point B, back to point A, again to point C, etc. Multiple flights are imposed on them. And because the company wants to cut down the cost, wants to contain the cost, etc., there will be a lot of workload put on these particular pilots, which might lead to exhaustion. And this exhaustion will lead to a lapse of judgment, a lapse, even a split second lapse or a miscalculation can lead to such kind of outcomes. So these are some of the safety issues associated with the civil aviation market that you should have to write if at all a question is asked on the issue of civil aviation, the potential as well as the challenges. Everybody is okay? Please do let me know in the chat section. Everybody is okay with the argument here, right? And if you ask me, sir, what about the opportunities? Are there opportunities because of the civil aviation market? Yes, the civil aviation market is one of the largest and the fastest growing. And in case of India, please understand, there is a huge potential of this civil aviation market. Although hardly around 2 to 3% of the total population can afford, can take this particular route, there is a huge potential. But at the same point of time, like I said, there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of security issues, aviation safety issues as well. And one more point, the fifth point you can add here, there is also concern associated with congestion. What do you mean by congestion? Let me give you a simple example. Very often you'll come across certain reports in the newspaper or let's say in the TVs where two of the planes were very nearby to each other, where two of the flights or aeroplanes, one was landing and suddenly the other takes off. All these are potential risks. All these are recipes, basically the ingredients which can lead to a lot of disaster. And what is the reason? Why does this generally happen? Because in case of India, there are certain airports. I hope you understand. There are certain airports where the number of passengers movement is very, very high. These airports handle very high traffic, and in the right, let's say in the pursuit of right addressing all of these particular requirements of the demand, a lot of times certain norms are flouted, certain guidelines are flouted in terms of the gap between a landing of the plane and the takeoff of the plane, and all of these are very dangerous, which will put the lives of the passengers at risk. You also need to address this particular issue of congestion, which a lot of time might lead to right these particular disasters. Done? Right. So these are important points. Please make a note of this. Now, let me go to the next article. Operation Rising Lion. Operation Rising Lion. Multiple articles in the Hindu newspaper as well as other newspapers have been given on this issue, or let's say the Operation Rising Lion, which was conducted by Israel by attacking on Iran. What are the important points? Let's understand one by one. Now, listen to me very carefully. Historically, if you see, there has been a race amongst the countries to develop nuclear weapons. Right? There has been a race. Multiple countries around the world have developed nuclear weapons, and they feel if you have this nuclear weapon, this will basically, right, have a control over the aggression which can be displayed by other countries, especially your enemy countries. That is, if you develop a nuclear weapon, at least, right, the fear of the usage of the nuclear weapon will push away the enemies from attacking you. That will be the last resort that you will use the nuclear weapon. Even in the context of India and Pakistan, very recently, there was a discussion regarding nuclear weapon, right, let's say usage. But the argument here is, over a period of time, certain countries, right, under the United Nations, certain countries in the Security Council who have developed nuclear weapons will keep on imposing certain restrictions, sanctions, if they feel that, right, certain country is developing a nuclear weapon. And we already have an authority as well, International Atomic Energy Agency, which is also coming into picture whenever there is a talk of nuclear weapons. But at the same point of time, listen to me carefully. Whenever you talk about nuclear material, whenever you talk about nuclear material, the nuclear material can be used not just for the development of nuclear weapons, can also be used for civilian purposes. For example, production of electricity. So the argument in the context of Iran is that there is a allegation, and true to a very great extent, there is an allegation that Iran has been enriching nuclear material. And as per the recent report published by International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran has already developed more than 400 kgs worth of nuclear material, which has reached the enrichment level of 60%. And if it increases to, let's say, 90%, that is required, that is more than sufficient to develop nuclear weapons, atomic bombs. That's more than sufficient to develop the nuclear weapons. And in order to address this particular issue itself, that is, this country will keep on enriching, which can be used for the development of weapons. Back in the year 2015, there was an agreement signed. There was an agreement which was signed between the permanent five member countries plus one, Germany, P5 plus one, and Iran. Right? That is essentially JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. JCPOA, when Mr. Barack Obama was the president of US, along with the P5 plus one, there was an agreement signed. And that is essentially called as JCPOA. According to this particular agreement, right, the country Iran now will be will be relaxed from the imposition of sanctions. Lot of sanctions were imposed, and these particular sanctions, a lot of them were relaxed. But at the same point of time, the agreement also imposed conditions on the country Iran. What kind of conditions? It was not allowed to continue enrichment process beyond certain level. They were allowed to enrich only for, right, let's say, reaching the level which could be used for the civilian purposes, that is below 4%. So this agreement was signed, and right, basically this agreement was being implemented. After Mr. Barack Obama, it was Mr. Donald Trump who became the president of USA. The first term, not the current term, first term. And in the year 2018, in the year 2018, earlier also he had criticized this agreement. Finally, in the year 2018, he announced that this agreement shall not be continued. USA will not be part of the agreement. So the JCPOA, which was signed, which was being implemented, that agreement fell apart. And after this, Iran is said to have increased the enrichment. And according to the latest data published by IAEA, more than 400 kgs has been enriched by at a level of more than 60%. Now, this is historical background. Following this, there is a talk of agreement between USA and Iran now. Right? USA and Iran are talking, negotiating with each other to sign one more agreement, again based on the nuclear material itself. What are the final guidelines? Yet to be given. Reason being, so far 5 rounds of negotiations have taken place. The sixth round was supposed to happen Sunday. It's tomorrow. It was supposed to happen this Sunday. But even before that, Israel has launched an attack, has attacked multiple places, killed multiple high level military officials, killed multiple scientists, right, which are working in this particular nuclear program, and has also attacked multiple nuclear installations. Right, so this is essentially the concept of Operation Rising Lion. Now, some of you might be thinking, sir, if there is a negotiation which is already happening, if there are talks which are already happening, what was the reason behind the attack? Why suddenly this kind of a attack, this level of attack, and at this sophistication level has been conducted by Iran? I'm using the term sophisticated level because more than 200 planes were used by Israel to conduct this attack. And the attacks which have been conducted with pinpoint precision. For example, in one of the apartments, right, the room where the person was residing has been attacked with pinpoint precision. So argument is, what are the reasons? Why did Israel take this particular drastic step which has put the whole region into a turmoil now? Iran has retaliated. Again, Israel will attack. So the whole region has been put into turmoil. And please do not have any doubts regarding whether this will have an impact on India. The answer to that question is yes, it will have an impact on India. I'll come to that in a minute. The argument is, what are the reasons behind it? Right? What led to this kind of a unprecedented attack at this particular level? The reasons which have been cited are: one, the negotiations are happening between USA and Iran. But when the negotiations began, the president of USA said, I'm giving you 2 months. Essentially, this has to be done in 2 months. They will have to come to the table and it has to be completed in 2 months. Already 2 months are over. And it is said, because the 2 month duration is over, implicitly this is an indication to Israel to go ahead and attack Iran. Because mind you, earlier also Israel wanted to have attacks on Iran, but it has been the president of USA who have been holding the attacks back, who have been, right, basically arguing that Iran, the attacks, direct attacks should not be conducted at this particular level, especially the nuclear sites should not be attacked because the negotiation is happening, etc. So one argument in favor, or let's say why this attack has been conducted, the 2 month duration which was set up as a target is over now. That is the first one. Second argument is, Israel is worried that what if the agreement that is signed will be favorable, which will provide more relaxation to Iran compared to what were given earlier. Because already they have reached the level of 60% enrichment. And if they continue to do that, and according to one report, monthly basis, more than 30 kgs of uranium, the enrichment is actually being done by Iran now. More than 30 kgs. So the concern is, if the relaxations provided or if the conditions imposed are not going to restrict Iran in any way, they will continue and they will develop a nuclear weapon very soon. They will have an atomic weapon very soon. So that will basically destabilize the region. It will increase the power of Iran in this particular region. Right? That is also one of the very important concerns of Israel. Right? So in addition to this, there are multiple arguments also. For example, earlier, Iran had proxies, right? For example, Houthis is one of the proxies of Iran, or for that matter, Hamas, Hezbollah. All these are the proxies of Iran. They have developed axis of resistance like this, and these have become weaker now, especially with the downfall of Mr. Assad in Syria. That also has given more power to Israel to have these kind of attacks. So these are some of the reasons which have been cited as to why, right, these kind of attacks at this level have been carried out by Israel under Operation Rising Lion. Now, what will be the impact on India? What will be the impact on India? Listen to me carefully. This or any kind of events in the Middle East will always put India in a difficult position. India will find itself in a difficult position. What is the reason? Can you take the side of Israel completely and say whatever Israel has done to protect itself is correct? Then you will be basically right making Iran angry. Iran, right, is important for us. And can you basically say Iran is absolutely correct in right whatever they're doing? Then Israel will become angry with you, and that will destabilize the relations that you have with Israel. Reason being, so I hope you understand, with Israel, we have tie-ups wherein they are supplying the defense equipments to us. They are supplying defense equipments. They are supplying technology, which is important for India's agriculture sector. Right? So there are important relations with Israel. What about with Iran? Until 2018 and 19, we used to get access to cheaper crude oil from Iran. After that, we have stopped. We are not directly importing now. The Iran is important for India because of investment in Chabahar port. It is also important because of the trade corridor which India is participating, India is proposing now, or India is in favor of it. So argument is whenever these kind of like let's say frictions will happen between Israel and Iran, India will be put in a difficult position. And if you're wondering, I'll come to the question. I'll give you a question based on this. Don't worry. What kind of impact India will experience because of it? The frictions started, that is basically the attack and counter attack, is happening in the last 24 plus hours. It has started in the last right 24 hours only. As a result of this, already concerns have been raised as to what kind of impact it will have on India. First impact is automatically the diplomacy will be put under pressure. India's diplomatic relations with both of the countries will be tested now. But in addition to this, what about economic impact? Will there be any kind of economic impact? Yes. I'll give you examples here. One, India imports crude oil. Correct? India imports crude oil. How much? More than 80% of the requirement of India in terms of crude oil, we import it. Now, because of right these kind of attacks and counter attacks, the crude oil prices in the international market have started going upwards. Right? It has started going upwards. Yes. Right? This will have an impact on India's imports. And when India's imports will become costlier, don't you think this will contribute to right inflationary trends in India? It will start having an impact on inflation. That will happen. Right? It will happen. Right now, RBI government of India is happy because the inflation rate is under control. But because of this, the equations, right, especially in the calculation of inflation, it will be disrupted now. Right? If it continues to happen. Although some of the experts are saying this is a knee-jerk reaction, the things will cool down in the coming days and right automatically the impact on India will also be lesser. Second impact is what about India's exports? What about India's exports? India will export lot of these goods and services and also import by the way. I'll give you a very simple example. When Houthis started attacking the vessels which right use the route of Red Sea, which used these particular sea routes, India's imports in terms of let's say fertilizers now were routed using a longer sea route. Right? Rather than going through this sea route, they had to take a longer sea route to go via Cape of Good Hope. And as a result of this, the time taken for transportation increased. The cost of imports increased. And even India's exports of many of the products which will take these particular sea routes because of the frictions, because of right these kind of activities, the insurance for the transportation, insurance cost will increase, time taken will increase, and the cost of imports and exports will also start increase. Is it not a drawback for India then? Definitely yes. And the third important point in terms of economic impact is gold prices. Yesterday itself, I was talking about gold prices in the context of USA market. Now, yesterday, the gold prices again have crossed 1 lakh rupees. The price of gold has again breached the mark of 1 lakh rupees per 10 gram. Reason being, these kind of events will push the investors to basically start investing in safe haven assets. Safe haven assets. That is, those assets where, right, you will not be worried about your investments. You'll not be worried about volatility, etc. And this has essentially pushed the investors again to search for gold, invest in the gold. Demand for the gold has gone up, as a result of which the market prices again have gone up. Right, so these are the economic impacts, as well as right, the other kind of impact that India will experience because of the conflict between Iran and Israel. And so based on this, I've given a descriptive question here. Please have a look at this. And I've given a descriptive question. The growing conflict between Israel and Iran will pose a diplomatic and economic challenges for India. Elaborate. A 15 marker question, 250 words. Okay. Right, so let's move forward to the next article. Kerala is seeking amnesty scheme for declaring wildlife trophy. Right, wildlife trophy. Now listen to me very carefully. In India, we have a law. There is a law, Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. I'll use the short form now, WPA 1972. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 has come into force. It has come into force from September 1972. And under this, there is one section, Section 40. What is the importance of Section 40? Section 40 simply says, if you are someone who has, right, let's say, the custody and, right, the possession of animal article, any kind of animal article, trophy, unkilled trophy or captive animals. Right, what is this trophy they're talking about? Must have seen certain people will basically showcase a pendant that they're wearing, which will have, right, let's say, nail of a tiger. It was there in the newspapers also, right? Many of the celebrities have been called for explaining whether it is a true tiger nail or not. People have been arrested for holding ivory, keeping ivory on display in their houses. People have been arrested for having the skin, that is the hide of tigers, being used as a display, etc. So these are essentially called as a trophies, wildlife trophies. Everybody's okay, be it the skin, be it, right, let's say, the teeth, or right, the nail, etc., etc. These are called as animal wildlife trophies. Now, under Section 40 of Wildlife Protection Act, it stated that if you are someone who is in the possession of any of these, then in the next 30 days, come to the government authorities, submit the documentation through what you've acquired it, and, right, basically it will be made legal. That is, no action will be taken against you. Because mind you, under Wildlife Protection Act, the plants, birds, or let's say animals, these have been categorized into different sections. Is it okay? These have been categorized into different sections, Schedule 1, 2, etc. like this. And those animals which are kept under the Schedule 1, these will have the highest amount of protection. They will get the highest amount of protection. Right? That is, you are not about to you are not allowed to hunt them. It is an offense to kill them, etc., etc. So argument is, under Schedule 1, many of these animals are listed, more than 400 are there. If you are having any kind of the trophies, right, which are associated with these animals, now you will have to go to the government designated authority, submit documentation. And according to Section 40, this should have been done in the 30 days once the law will come into force. Once the law will come into force, which has already come in the month of September 1972, in the next 30 days, you are supposed to do that. But over a period of time, it was realized that many people have not followed the law. Many people were not aware of it. They have not declared such assets or such trophies, etc. So what did Government of India do? They announced, right, an amnesty scheme. They announced an amnesty scheme. What is an amnesty scheme? Before I go forward, listen to me carefully. The term amnesty scheme is not just associated with this wildlife trophy. Do not be under the assumption that it is associated with only this. No. Amnesty scheme is a very common term. That is, amnesty scheme will provide protection to you, will give protection to you. You will not be penalized. That is the meaning of the term amnesty scheme. For example, in case of income taxes also, lot of times government in the past has announced amnesty scheme. So government of India announced an amnesty scheme. According to this, by October 18, 2003, October 18, 2003, you were supposed to go to certain designated authorities, submit documentation which will prove that you have got these, right, through legal methods, you have got these particular wildlife trophies. It could be right through acquisition, or because of inheritance, you have got again legally, you have got these wildlife trophies. And now you will not be penalized, you will be given protection. What do you mean by penalizing here? According to the Wildlife Protection Act, if you are found to be having these kind of wildlife trophies, you will be penalized with, right, a penalty of 25,000 rupees, in addition to jail time of 3 to 7 years. 3 to 7 years jail time is there, plus monetary penalty is also there. So this is essentially the debate that has happened, right, in the past. But why it is there in the discussion today? Why it is mentioned in the newspaper today? Even after the end of the amnesty scheme, there have been certain instances where celebrities have been caught having these wildlife trophies, and they have contested. The cases are happening in the courts, etc., etc. Now, Kerala government simply says they will appeal to the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change, MOEFCC, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They will provide an appeal to this ministry, that is essentially to the government of India, to again announce an amnesty scheme. Announce one more amnesty scheme under the Wildlife Protection Act, so that those people who have not declared these so far will be using the scheme, declare these, right, wildlife trophies, and they will be protected from being prosecuted under the law. Right, so this is essentially the gist of the article, summation of the article provided here. Now, based on this, I've given an MCQ. Solve it quickly before I tell you the key answer. Consider the following statements regarding Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. All the animals listed under the act are accorded the same level of protection. Are all the animals given the same level of protection? No. Right, as you keep on moving from the top to the bottom, schedule 1, 2, 3, etc., right, the protection will keep on changing. It is not correct. Okay, it is incorrect. Second one, the act provides for protection of plants as well. Yes, birds, plants and animals. The second statement is true. Right option for this question will be option B. Only 2 is correct. Let me go forward, but before that, very important announcement. If you look at the UPSC question paper, both in prelims as well as mains, lot of questions do come from the area of ecology and environment. And there is one question general in the prelims based on the species in the news. Question in the mains based on, right, let's say the places in the news, even in the mapping questions have been asked. And a lot of the students, we get these doubts as to how do we read them. Very difficult. A lot of things are there in the newspaper. Lot of things are there in other newspaper also. We are not getting sufficient time. How do we do that? I have a solution for all of you now. What is the solution? Starting this month, Mukesh sir will be taking up 2 sessions every month. Right? 2 types of sessions every month. One is every second Saturday. Right? Every second Saturday, Mukesh sir will be taking a session, species in news. And second, right, first Saturday every month, Mukesh sir will be taking places in news. So please do not miss out these particular videos. These will be uploaded in our in our YouTube channel only. All you need to do is subscribe to our channel. As and when the videos are uploaded, you will get a notification. Please do watch, use the knowledge. And more importantly, if you're someone who is facing problems in answer writing, who is facing issues, how to frame the answers, etc., etc. Today evening, there is a platinum class which will be taken up by Chethan sir. It will be live at 7 p.m. You'll have to register for the session. The link for the registration is provided in the description below. Please do not miss out on this opportunity. Everybody's okay? Current affairs, two more initiatives, and right, Chetan sir, platinum class. Right, that's the reason I'm saying if you're yet to subscribe to YouTube channel, kindly do it now. Okay, let me go forward. Yesterday, I had given you certain updates regarding IREL and right the sale of rare earth metals, exports of rare earth metals from India. I told you this particular point. If UPSC will question you or let's say give you a statement whether India exports any of the rare earth metals or critical minerals, don't jump to a conclusion and say it is incorrect. I told you it is correct. And just to prove that particular point, today in Hindu newspaper, there is one more article. There is an article. The IREL has been asked by the government of India to stop exports of rare earths to Japan. It has been asked to stop export of rare earth to Japan. Now, what is the discussion? What are the important points? Listen to me carefully. Back in the year 2002, there was an agreement. There was an agreement between government of India and government of Japan. That is essentially there was a government to government. Remember this particular term. Government to government agreement according to which IREL, Indian Rare Earths Limited. Earlier it was in fact named full Indian Rare Earth Limited. Now it has been compressed like this. Only the short form is used. IREL would supply this rare earth to Toyota company. And the Toyota company would process it and send it to Japan. Japan would be using this rare earth to manufacture magnets, fit these particular magnets into different vehicle engines and use to export these engines or let's say use it in the domestic market. But more importantly, understand this, Japan is not just importing this rare earth only from India. It is also importing this mainly from China. It is importing mainly from China. And that is the precise reason very recently in Japan, many of these automobile makers have announced that if the supply chain of these rare earth magnets is not resolved, they may have to discontinue manufacturing of certain types of cars. That has been announced in Japan now. So argument is simple. IREL used to mine this, used to sell it to or transfer it to Toyota company, and the Toyota company would export it to Japan. Japan used to use it to manufacture magnets. Now the government of India is simply saying, when we are suffering, we are not able to, right, let's say bring in these rare earth magnets from China. China has said, we are willing to talk to you, we are willing to negotiate with you. Let's start negotiating now. But negotiations will take time. Overnight, you will not be able to ease the supply chain. And mind you, going forward, this will be the new front in the trade war. Going forward, this will be used as a tool to basically wage and fight the trade war. For example, whatever USA did, imposition of tariffs again and again, China simply made one announcement in addition to other retaliatory measure that we will be stopping export of rare earths. That essentially led to what? The negotiations between right China and USA now. So going forward, this will be used as a tool, as a tactic, as a weapon in the trade war. And not just a trade war, even in terms of security also. Every now and then, there are frictions between India and China's the security forces. What if China, because of those kind of frictions, will announce that we will not be exporting critical minerals to India or will make it very difficult by imposition of certain non-tariff barriers? So government of India has realized that yes, we need to focus on the critical mineral production, processing and supply in India. And one of the measures that the government of India has now announced is that IREL will not be supplying these particular rare earths to Japan now. Instead of that, will be supplying that in the domestic market itself. In fact, there was one more newspaper article couple of days ago in the business line, not the one that I've given yesterday. Apart from that, there are many articles also. So that article basically said government of India is also considering commercializing, I repeat, commercializing certain processing techniques which are there with right government owned enterprises, which will be supplied now to other private sector enterprises also. That is essentially there is some technology that is available, but only with the government entities now. That process now will be made available to even the private sector companies, which will be using it to process rare earth minerals in India. Done. So these are certain important points associated with the article given here. According to article, just make a correction here. I said 2002. According to the article, it is 2012. Government to government agreement. Okay, done. So this is one more update. Right, have a look at the next update here. Kerala High Court has issued a directive to central government now. Right, that is right the updation of the case that is happening in the context of providing relief to the people who have suffered because of Wayanad landslides last year. Yesterday, I had given you certain points. It is an updation to those points. What was the updation yesterday? The central government has given an affidavit in the Kerala High Court stating that yes, under section 13, under section 13 of Disaster Management Act, there is a provision to provide relief to the people who have suffered because of disasters. What kind of relief? Based on the recommendation or the advice given by the authority, the government has the power to announce a loan waiver or, right, let's say, the grant of loan waiver or cancellation is allowed. And that power is there with the central government. But at the same point of time, I also gave you an update saying that central government has removed this particular section 13 from the Disaster Management Act in the beginning of this particular year. That was the affidavit submitted by the center to the Kerala High Court. Kerala High Court has given 3 weeks time with a question to the central government. The Kerala government is simply asking the central government, agreed, you have removed section 13 from the Disaster Management Act. But is it the only power that you have? Or was it the only section using which you can provide these kind of waivers? You can provide relief to the people who are suffering in India? Is that the only provision? The Kerala High Court simply said, in fact, you did not derive the power from the Disaster Management Act. There is a bigger provision under the Constitution of India. The provision which has been cited by the Kerala High Court is the article number 73. Remember this. Article number 73. The Kerala High Court states that under article number 73, any area where the parliament has the power to make laws, if there are no provisions, if there's a gap in the provision, the government of India can make or can take measures and steps under those particular areas. Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement again here. What is the meaning of it? Article 73 talks about executive power of the union government. Executive power. Let's say there is an area where the central government has the power, or let's say parliament has the power to make laws. Right? For example, disasters. They have the right to make laws on it. Now there is a gap in the regulation. There is a gap in the law. That is right now there is no provision which states that, which was there earlier, that is section 13, that provision has been withdrawn, which means that there is a lacuna, there is a gap. The union government can still make provisions, can still make, let's say, policies which can basically be implemented, right, doing the same work. It's not that there has to be a provision only. They can do it the same way, right? If it is challenged, the government of India can cite article number 73 in that case. So that is the reason the Kerala High Court has stated that you can do the same thing, that is provide a loan waiver, provide a relief to these people who have suffered because of the landslides using the powers given to you under article 73. So you please tell me, why will you not do this? Think of this for the next 3 weeks and provide, right, a feedback, provide your reply to me. So 3 week time period has been provided. After 3 weeks, again you will come across this article. Okay, so this is an update. Next important article. Ecology and environment, important article. For the first time, central government has provided funding and is setting up the FRA cells. Listen to me carefully. FRA cells, Forest Rights Act cells. FRA cells to facilitate the implementation of Forest Rights Act across 18 states and UTs. What is the meaning of it? Let me explain this. The government of India has implemented a piece of legislation, the Forest Rights Act of 2006. Correct? This is a point number one. FRA 2006 has come into force. Under FRA 2006, the government, right? Essentially, when I say government in the second point here, essentially it is the state government. The state governments, the provisions of the law simply says you will have to provide a certain protection. You'll have to provide certain recognition to the people who belong to, right? Let's say the scheduled tribes, or right, let's say the people who belong to other traditional forest dwellers. These people historically have been residing in the forest, have been using the forest resources, have been cultivating in forest resources, etc. So, in that particular situation, once you implement the Forest Rights Act, their right, let's say, liberties, their right access to the forest should not be cut. So, what was the basic idea here? The state government, under the regulations, under the Act of Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognitions of the Rights Act, FRA, would set up various level committees. Committees would be set up at various levels, at the block level, at the panchayat level, at district level, etc. Committees would be set up. And if you're someone who belongs to, let's say, the scheduled tribes, and you want to get access to, right, let's say, certain forest produce, you want to use the water which is present in the forest region, you want to cultivate in the forest region, that is your right, by the way. So your rights would be recognized once you apply to these authorities under the provision. Right? This has been the process implemented so far. And the central government periodically has kept on stating that the process, we have implemented the law, but the right, or we have announced the law, but the implementation, all of that will be taken up by the state governments. The UTs as well as the state governments are the right authorities to correctly implement all of these particular provisions. Now, there is a change in the stance. Right? There is a change in the stance of the central government. How so? The central government very recently launched a scheme. Please make a note of this. Very recently launched a scheme. Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. Remember the name of the scheme? I'll repeat this again. Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. DAGGUA. This initiative has been launched very recently by the government of India. Right? Under this particular initiative, now government of India is establishing the Forest Rights Act cells. I'll come to FRA cells in a minute. But before that, what is the importance of this initiative? I'm pretty sure all of you heard of aspirational districts. Do let me know in the chat section. All of you heard of aspirational districts? Under aspirational districts, what is the idea? 112 districts have been identified throughout India, and we are ensuring that under five parameters, certain infrastructure will be developed, financial inclusion will be promoted, access to services will be promoted, etc., etc. Similar model, right? Essentially, under the aspirational district program, it is always on focused on convergence. Different ministries are there, different departments are there, but all of them are supposed to work together to ensure these districts will experience improvement in all of these indicators. Similar model will be used in these 63,000 plus villages which are holding the tribal population, or where the tribal population is residing. So this initiative is focused on inclusive and sustainable development of the regions where tribal population is mainly residing. It is being implemented across more than 63,000 villages, right, which are spanning in more than 500 districts across 30 states and union territories. The focus here is to ensure that certain types of social infrastructure which is lagging behind, certain type of access to the services which is lagging behind, for example, education, healthcare, etc. There will be convergence of all of these 17 plus line ministries, and the implementation will be done in achieving, right, let's say, improvement in 25 targeted areas. There are 25 areas which have been identified, and we want to improve the performance of these villages in these 25 targeted areas. This is right, essentially the importance of the scheme that I've mentioned here. Now come to the point here. I said Government of India is providing funding and setting up FRA cells. What is the importance of the FRA cell here? The tribal population, or let's say the other traditional forest dwellers, they will have to submit documentation, I said. In order to get the rights recognized, you will have to submit the documentation. Lot of paperwork is involved. Lot of them do not understand what is the process here, what kind of documents to submit, in what form the documents have to be submitted, etc., etc. Now, Government of India simply says, by establishing the FRA cell, Forest Rights Act cell, this will help the tribal population and other forest dwellers in submitting the documentation and getting the rights recognized by the different committees. Is the point clear? The Government of India simply says the FRA cell will not give them any rights. FRA cell will not recognize these particular, right, let's say, rights of the people. No, because there are already committees which have been set up at different levels to do that, which have been set up by the state government. What is the role of FRSL? It will help. It will help these particular population, or let's say these people, in preparing documentation, in submitting the documentation, in quick, right, let's say, approval, or getting quick approvals by different committees. This is right, the important point. Please make a note of this. I hope you understand. Please make a note of this. Ecology and environment, very important as such for the civil services prelims examination, as well as mains examination as well. Okay, next, MCQ 132. Consider the following statements. The center has set up the Forest Rights Act cells, FRA cells, to recognize the rights and provide approvals to the tribals. No, the FRSL will not recognize, will not give the rights, will not, right, basically grant the approvals to the tribal population here. It will assist the tribal population in submission of the document. And okay, first statement is incorrect. Second, FRA cells have been set up under the FRA Act. Under the FRA Act. No. Listen to me very carefully. Not under the FRA Act. Listen to me very carefully. Not under the FRA Act. Right? Obviously, a lot of you will feel, sir, FRA Act, FRA cell should be correct. No. The Government of India has clearly stated it will be set up under this initiative. That is Dharti Aba Janjatiya Gram Utkarsh Abhiyan. Under this, right, let's say, scheme, the FRA cells have been set up by the Government of India. Okay. So, right option for the question will be option D. None of the statements are correct. Now, last article for today. India abstains from UNGA resolution for Gaza ceasefire. After this, right, appeared in the newspaper, there was a criticism for the stand taken by the Government of India. There was support for the stand taken by Government of. Reason being, I hope you understand this. There was a voting that was conducted in the United Nations General Assembly. And what was the focus of the voting? The resolution argued in favor of a ceasefire in Gaza. In the recent times, I'm pretty sure all of you have come across this, read, heard of it in the discussion as well. There is a concern raised regarding access to, right, let's say, the aid, humanitarian aid for the people suffering in Gaza. Because of the blockade, because of, right, let's say, the frictions between the Palestine as well as Israel. Now, what is the discussion all about here? Right, more than, majority of the countries, when this resolution was, announced, they supported it. It has been passed. Some of the countries have voted against it. For example, Israel, USA have voted against the resolution. India, along with some of the countries, abstained from voting. India, along with some of the countries, abstained from voting. Abstain means they did not participate in the process of voting itself. And this is not the first time that India has done it. And the criticism has come because when the similar resolution was introduced back in December 2024, similar resolution was introduced, India voted in favor of the resolution. Now, right after 5 to 6 months, when the resolution, different resolution, but again related to Gaza, has been announced, introduced in the UNGA, India abstained from voting. Now, what is the reason? Again, I'm saying please listen to all these things very carefully because it is talking about international relations. Diplomatic, right? Let's say the methods that are used, diplomacy, how it is used, etc. You can use all of these arguments if at all a question is asked in, let's say, interview or even in the mains examination. Why? What are the reasons why India abstained from voting? The reasons are as follows. One, India argues that diplomacy and dialogue is the only solution for these kind of issues. Diplomacy and dialogue. Is it okay? Not a resolution. Not a resolution in United Nations. It is all about diplomacy and dialogue. You can address these particular issues through this rather than right bringing in a resolution and getting it passed. That is not the way forward. Point number two, India has a close relations with Israel. India also has recognized Palestine. The point clear. India is one of the countries which has recognized Palestine as a state. So argument is on one side you have recognized the Palestine's right, you are also having close relations with Israel, right? Rather than participating and taking a stand either of this or in favor of this or in favor of that, better you abstain. Better you simply stay away from this particular voting. Let the other countries decide. You will have a diplomatic win in that particular situation. Right? That is the second issue. Right? That is recognition to Palestine as well as close ties with Israel. And that is the second one. Third reason why India abstained is in this June resolution, the latest resolution in the United Nations General Assembly. There is one point where it says we should refer this matter to ICJ. Right? We should refer this particular matter, that is attack of Israel on Gaza, to ICJ. We should take the feedback from ICJ, etc. Government of India is against such practices. The government of India is against such practices of using ICJ as a reference or getting reference from the ICJ in sovereign matters. The government of India says, no, in that case, I will stay away from voting. I will basically abstain from voting. Point number four, there is also one more concern of India. That is Hamas attacks. Hamas attacks. A terrorist attack, such as the attack of Hamas, holding of the hostage, etc., government of India says is not acceptable. But there is no mention as well as criticism of these activities conducted by Hamas in the resolution. Right? So these are some of the arguments which have been put forward by government of India to stay away, to abstain from the voting that has taken place very recently, right, in the United Nations General Assembly, calling for ceasefire in Gaza and allowing for access to the humanitarian aid. Done. So these are the 8 articles as well as the concepts associated with these 8 articles that I wanted to discuss in today's session. If you have any kind of questions or doubts, please do let me know. I'll address them. Then we can close the session. Any doubts? Any doubts? Please do let me know. Resolution is a proposal. Ram Singh, my dear, resolution is a proposal. Any other doubts? Please do let me know. Satya Prakash, credit default swap. My dear, for that, I need to enter into derivative market. Derivative market, right? Again, slightly technical. Maybe when I get a lot of time, I'll explain what is a credit default swap. But if you're writing UPSC, 99.99% guaranteed UPSC is not going to ask you that, right? Because it is a part of the derivative market. Derivative market is very complicated. Okay. Anushka Singh, my dear, don't say I have. Tell me what is the doubt. What is PSL? Harshu, PSL essentially stands for Priority Sector Lending. Priority Sector Lending. Under this, 40% of the credit. Right? Again, I'm saying 40% of the credit. Technically, it is called as adjusted net bank credit. 40% of the credit has to be given to following sectors by the banks annually. Right? What are these particular areas? Education, export credit, housing, weaker sections of the society, agriculture, etc. That is the concept of a priority sector lending. Inclusive and sustainable development of tribal. My dear, inclusive means the benefits are reaching to the tribal population. Sustainable means it's not just sufficient to ensure that the benefits will reach only 1 year. They will get jobs for a temporary period. They will get the develop or they will get the benefits of development in a shorter duration. No, it should be given for a longer duration. That is sustainable. Okay. Satya Prakash, okay, then leave it. Okay, my dear, I will leave it. Okay. Don't you think abstaining like this can create impact on India? In let's say tomorrow, India bring anything on UNGA table, my dear, because you are not part of P5. Anyways, whatever you bring in, China will oppose it. But that's on a lighter note. But you must have seen that in different situations when India wants to right get someone listed from Pakistan as a terrorist, etc. China will oppose it multiple times. It has vetoed it. Right. So I hope you understand. You need to balance. You always need to balance. That is diplomacy. When you read about foreign policy, you'll come across one point. What is the objective of a foreign policy? It is always to protect self-interest. It is always to protect self-interest. That is what we are trying to do. Okay. Are these areas fixed for PSL? Yes. The areas are fixed for PSL. 8 areas. What is stay hungry, stay foolish? My dear, stay hungry and stay foolish essentially means keep exploring, keep taking risk. Do not worry about the outcomes. In a nutshell, I'm saying. Done then. So take care. I'll meet you again tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. Till then, please download these particular articles. Use it to update the current affairs. Right. See you tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. Till then, have a great day.